Hi, everyone, and welcome back. Today, I have with me the amazing Bryana. She is I will let her introduce herself, but we used to work together about 6 years ago, 7 years ago, in Santa Monica at this place called the Pump Station in Nursery. And she was one of the most incredible instructors for Mommy and Me, Parent and Me groups for toddlers that I got the honor to sit in on. And I just learned so much from you. And I am so excited to get into everything with you. But yeah, Bryana, introduce yourself. Who are you?
Well, thank you for having me. And it was actually more like almost 10 years ago. That was when I started. Yeah, that was when I started over there. It's been a while since I've known you. But I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. Bryana Kappadakunnel is my name. And I am the founder of Conscious Mommy, where I help parents learn how to raise confident, compassionate kids by becoming the parent they wish they had. And I have a private practice here in Redondo Beach. I have two kids, and I'm the author of Parent Yourself First, which is my recent book that I put out, helping parents understand the importance of self-reflection and knowing ourselves so we can be more tuned into the children in front of us.
Oh, so
Yeah.
so excited. I've just been following your work all these years and have just been dying to talk to you and catch up with you. And I would love to just today, focus on, I absolutely want to hear more about your book and everything that you've accomplished so far. But today, like really listening to your birth stories and if processing them together, just bringing us back to all those years ago. And yeah, so I would love to hear your journey to pregnancy and how you and your husband kind of decided that now's the time we want to start a family. And how did that all look?
Wow. I'm so excited to talk about this. It's something that I don't think I spend a whole lot of time thinking about. Since it's been a while, my oldest is 7.5, Matteo, and that's who you were the doula for. And my youngest, Giovanni, will be 5 in December. Um, so when it was time to start talking about, well, first of all, my husband and I were talking about having kids for the longest time. That was something that we always knew we wanted to do. And what we were more focused on was how we wanted to raise them. So we were really focused on the parenting um, part of the conversation. And then, you know me, I'm like, so what kind of baggage do you bring into being a parent? And here's all the baggage that I bring into being a parent. And getting those reflective conversations going, I think was what made us feel like, okay, we're ready to call this kid in. And I always knew, like in my heart, even as like a little girl, I knew I would have two boys and that I would name them Matteo and Giovanni. And that is exactly what happened.
No.
And Matt was really into having a little boy named Matteo since his name is Matt. And, it's the Italian version of Matteo. Or excuse me, it's the Italian version of Matt. And so when we found out that we were pregnant, it was very exciting. It was, okay, here we go. We're doing this. No turning back now. And I think I was a little anxious at first because, it's new. And I didn't, people often just immediately start telling you not to get your hopes up. And, oh, I had a miscarriage at XY weeks and this, and that, which can be very confusing, I think, for, you know, somebody just stepping into the space. And I had just made the decision that even if I do, then I'll deal with the grief of that. But I'm not going to hold my joy in until 14 weeks because Instagram says that you should. I'm just not going to do that. I'm going to share it. And there's no shame either way. And so I did. I started telling people. I found out I was pregnant. Well, because at that time I was doing like charting. So I knew when I ovulated, and I knew my missed period before I was just reading my temperature. So I already knew I was pregnant before I even took the test. The test just confirmed it. So I was basically telling people immediately, like I would say within five, probably when I was around 5 weeks, 6 weeks pregnant. And I was very lucky to have easy pregnancies. I didn't have any issues. I didn't have any you know, high blood pressure issues. I didn't have any sweat. I didn't even swell. I just kind of went along my my life, and I felt very fortunate that in that way, because I know that a lot of folks didn't experience that. Like I didn't have HG. I was nauseous, I think, and especially in the first trimester, like everybody, but like I never threw up once in either one of my pregnancies. So I felt very, very fortunate to have just like a smooth part of the transition. What I dealt with more were the dreams and all the fear that was coming through in my dreams. I had this one dream, I'll never forget it, where I was trying to nurse my baby, and I couldn't. This is but while I was pregnant, and I couldn't nurse the baby. It was completely empty. There was nothing to give. And then a family member who I was just have kind of a complicated relationship with came over to me and squeezed my other breast, and then it just came pouring out with milk. I literally had to like go to therapy for that dream, because I was like, what is my subconscious trying to work out? It felt very spiritual. It felt like the sense of, the fear of being so drained and the fear of not being enough, but actually seeing you have so much to give. You have so much more. You're actually overflowing with what you're capable of giving. Um, and sometimes people bring that out of you in ways that doesn't feel comfortable. So take control over how you want to give what you know you have. And that ended up being my take home message of this very strange, weird pregnancy dream that I think we all can relate to. And then, going into the birth process, I was like, oh, I think, Allison, I think I'm going into labor here. I think maybe you should come over, because I'm not really sure. I'm not quite sure what is going on here.
But it was also like, what made you think about that? Like, what made you think about getting a doula? Did you know much about doulas? And how did your processing go of where to give birth? How did you even decide that?
Oh, well, I knew for sure I did not want to give birth in a hospital. Hospitals freak me out. I don't like hospitals. I don't like needles, and I don't like pressure. I don't perform well in those circumstances. So, and generally speaking, like I don't feel comfortable around doctors. It's not because I don't like what they do. I go to doctors, whatever. I, it's, it was there's no comparison between OBGYN care and midwifery care. Midwifery care is so holistic. They're thinking about the whole family, the whole person in front of them, the whole child within. And that just really resonated with me. I like that, my midwife took time. Each appointment was a full hour. It wasn't just rush, check, okay, bye. There was a lot of emphasis on how are you doing? Let me educate you. Let me talk to you about what's going on inside. What are you feeling afraid about? What are you feeling excited about? There's a lot more education, counseling, and support. And it just was a no-brainer. But I think what really inspired it all, other than my total aversion to hospitals, I watched this movie that was very popular at the time, called The Business of Being Born. And
Hmm.
that movie really like opened my eyes to possibilities that I didn't know existed. I didn't know that you could birth at home. I didn't know that there was such thing as a birth center. My exposure to birth was when I was, 13 years old. They sat us down in health class and they were like, here's a video of a woman giving birth. She had her legs up in stirrups. She's screaming at the top of her lungs. And the camera is focused on her vagina. And we are all traumatized watching her vagina split open, blood and everything everywhere. And then they passed out abstinence cards and they said, sign these to stay abstinent so you don't have to go through this. And this was in public school in Pennsylvania in the late 90s.
Oh my God.
And I was like, I don't know what is going on here, but I am never having a child. This looks absolutely terrifying. No, thank you. And then when I came across the business of being born, it was just very interesting to see that there's so many more options available that are in alignment with me. I liked that one, there was no pain medicine. Like that didn't scare me. Um, what scared me more was the idea of somebody pressuring me to like hold still for a needle and then me not being able to feel what I know I need to feel. That scared me more. The idea of just being really in tune with my system and with my baby and trusting the process just has always been in alignment with who I who I am. It's even the type of parenting that I teach is really just learning how to trust yourself and learning how to trust your kid. I think it's something that we really undervalue as a society, just trusting and listening and responding to what's happening and not tightening and tensing and pushing away the pain, but learning how to be with the pain. I wanted that. I wanted that like spiritual experience. I wanted that opportunity to just be one with all of the ancestors, all of the women that have been here. I wanted that. It was even beyond like wanting it. Like I needed it. I needed it for my soul.
Mm.
So it felt like the right choice. And honestly, I didn't have a doula for my second birth because I couldn't even imagine replacing you. Um,
No.
I wanted you at my birth because
Mm.
you made me feel so safe and I
Mm.
loved you and I still love you. And I just think you are such an amazing person. But like I felt really connected to you and really just supported. So obviously I want to bring that sense of support into, hey kitty, I want to bring that sense of support into our into my birth experience. Absolutely. And you embodied that. I didn't go and look for another doula with my second for a number of reasons. I gave birth in COVID,
Mm.
um, where it was just very, that was traumatic in and of itself, giving birth in COVID. But it was also my second time. I
Mm.
felt like I kind of know the ranks. I was not birthing in a birth center that time. I actually birthed at home for my second birth.
Oh my gosh.
And my midwife had a team of three. So there was already four people that were going to be present for the birth. So it just didn't make sense with having my other kiddo there, my husband there. We had an au pair. Like it's just too many cooks. I don't need that many cooks in the kitchen. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Oh, I didn't know that. I need to know. Yeah, I want to go through both of your stories for both of your little boys because, yeah, your birth literally your first birth transformed my life, like in the direction I wanted to go, in the sense of
Mm.
having only worked in a hospital before and then seeing my very first birth center physiological power woman giving birth in the way that you did. It was just like, I still remember so much of it, even though it was 7.5 years ago. I mean, I was just so like, my soul needed that. My soul really needed that. And that connection with you, it was just, I just felt so honored to be chosen and that you welcomed me into that space, because I think it was, yeah, meant to be. The universe just put our paths in the same direction because, yeah, it really transformed me. So yeah, let's go
Mm.
to that. How did it all start? How did you were pregnant or the birth start? I want to know everything. Bring me back.
I think I was in prodromal labor for a couple days, where it would like start up and then at around maybe one or two, it would stop. And so each night for several nights, I was like, it's coming, it's coming. And I'm like, oh, it's gone. So sleep. And then on the third night, so this would have been a Thursday night, it was coming and it was coming a little bit more intensely. By it, I mean the surges, the swells, the labor pains, whatever the heck you want to call them. They were coming with more consistency, and I was having a harder time relaxing into them. And as it was hitting like 1, 2 a.m. and it's still going, is when I was like, I think we should probably start reaching out to the team. I just had a sense. I think my baby's coming. I was also a couple days late at that point. Matteo was born, he was due on the 24th. I only know that because that's Barbara Streisand's birthday. He was due on April 24th and he was born on April 27th. So that made him 3 days late. So I knew like we're getting there. We're getting there. And this might be something here. And then when you came, I just felt an instant calm. Like, okay, no matter what happens, I'm going to be okay because Allison's here. She's monitoring the situation and it's a-okay. So I felt a nice sense of trust. I can just be in where I am. I don't have any responsibility to anybody but myself and my baby. That's it. Everybody else is going to adjust themselves for me. That's how it's going to be. And I'm prepared for this because I did the birthing from within method. I was doing my ball work, honey. I'm working my ball. I'm working my side positions, my shakes, my rubs. I was like, I am type A plus my way through this birth experience. And also, I was probably making these types of jokes through the experience as well,
Oh
because
yeah.
that tracks.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it was, I think, around early morning, maybe like 5:30, 6 a.m. or so, when Amy was like, it's time. You got to start getting here. And you also were like, I'm pretty sure it's time. And so then we all packed up the car. I hung out in the back, hung out in the trunk.
Oh my gosh.
You remember that?
That was like the most incredible sight. Like, you're not, I mean, she's not, doesn't sit with a seatbelt. Like, she's on all fours, just
Oh, of course.
moving those hips. It was incredible. But
Because I couldn't sit. It was too painful to sit. The baby was like too close to the cervix, so I couldn't sit. So I'm like, I'm on all fours. I'm like, tell me before you hit the brake so I don't fly forward. We had pillows. We had a whole like camping situation in the trunk of my RAV4. And thankfully it wasn't too long of a commute, but that was pretty iconic, pretty hilarious. And then once we got there, I God, I think it was around like 6:30. I was like, okay, when's this gonna be over? Like I'm ready. And Amy was like, we're not there yet. And it almost felt like, shoot, the hard work hasn't even really begun yet. And I had a little moment with myself of like, okay, we are here. We are doing this. There is no turning back. This is going to happen. You just got to buckle up. You got to buckle up. The ride is coming, girl. But you're barely up that hill, honey. So we are not going to back down. This is going to be hard and we're going to face it. That was like what I was telling myself. We're going to face this. It's going to be hard and it's going to be worth it. And that ended up being true. It was hard and it was worth it. I spent a lot of time in that shower, a lot of time on the shower with somebody's hands on my back. I feel like at one point I had like 20 hands on my back. It felt like, because the way the pain, that was where my labor was, with Matteo. It was in the back labor. It was a lot. That was hard. Yeah. I mean, it's really hard to like recount the experience of waiting to meet my baby and like be aware of what was happening inside for me, because also like you're just in survival mode too. And I think a lot of the brain and body like shuts down quite a bit of what you're experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
I remember like begging to get into the tub, begging, because I had this vision I was going to have a water birth,
Mm-hmm.
wanted a water birth. That's what I had seen. And I was like, everybody looks so happy and so blissful in the water. And so she checks me and she's like, you're 7 centimeters. You're able to get in the tub now. I'm like, okay. And in my mind, like I've studied. So I'm like, I am in active labor. It's going to become harder. And you're just going to breathe through the ups and then you're going to try to rest during the downs. I'm trying to use academia to like get myself through this. So she's like, you can get into the water. I get into the water and I'm like, I can't get comfortable. I don't like it in here. I feel buoyant. I don't like buoyant. I want to feel grounded. I want to feel connected to the earth. I I feel light and too floaty. I do not like it. It felt very unsafe.
Mm.
And you know who else it felt unsafe for? Matteo. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
She started checking. She was like, your baby does not like this. We need to get you out now. That was when the pushing started to happen. And we are so conditioned around what pushing looks like. Because in the movies, they tell you push, push, push. So when I was like, yeah, like doing the grunting thing, and Amy was like, "Oh, okay, you're pushing," and I was like, Should I be holding it?" And I'm like, I'm not sure. What am I supposed to do?" And she was like, "If you want to push, push. If you feel the urge, push. That's your body telling you, like you can trust that." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And so I tried, and I wasn't trusting it because I didn't like the water. I couldn't get comfortable. And that was when she put the monitor on the belly and she was like, your baby does not like this. We need you to get out now. And when you're in labor, you do exactly what they tell you to do. Honey, I got up so quick, I climbed right out. She was like, you're going to sit right here. And I was like, on this, wire toilet looking thing. What is it that you are asking me to sit on?
The birth stool.
And it was a birth stool. She was like, you're going to sit down here and this is where you're going to give birth. And I was like, I'm going to just trust you. Okay, fine. Because she'd never shown me that before. So I had no idea what that was.
Mm.
Or if she did show me, I was unable to recall that in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it ended up being the best thing ever because I pushed 4 times and the baby, he was out. He was out in 18 minutes.
It was insane. It was insane.
He flew out.
Yeah.
4 people dove to catch him, Amy and Atusa. He literally flew out of me.
I mean, it was literally, it was so fast because I can't recall that we were at the birth center that long. Like, because
We
when
were
was,
we were only there for, so we got there, I want to say around like 6:30. He was born at 10:42.
that's what I was thinking. Because, yeah, I remember it was hard. I remember, but I also remember you coping so well. And I didn't feel like, oh, like that you're ever suffering. You were never in a suffering place, or at least
Right.
I could see that, or anyone else could see that. But you were coping with that back labor. And I just remember it going so fast after you got out of the tub.
I wasn't suffering because I had support. Nobody left my side. There was always somebody there, physically present with me, watching, holding space, physically holding me, holding my hands, guiding me, leading me to where I needed to be, and like being that anchor for me, and really like making me feel like I wasn't alone in this. And that was just so, I think that's so important and so powerful that like even like a woman who's like, go away, leave me alone, should still know that there is somebody within arm's reach. We're here. We're not going to just leave you. We're not going to abandon you, because you never know when you really do need to fall back on someone in the birth process. And you want to know that the person you're falling back on is really tuned in to what is happening for you in the moment, that they're not fearful. There's no fear in them. They are fearless for you because, I mean, let's be real. Birth is scary. It's a scary experience. You can't fully prepare for what that experience is like until you're in it. And even still, like after having two births and the births being totally different, like it's it brings up a lot. And so to have a care team that is fearless for you makes all the difference. It's what allows you to be sturdy. It's what allows you to feel like you can cope with what's happening.
Wow. So powerful. Oh, it's an incredible story. And you're just such an inspiration because it really goes back to how we've always birthed women surrounded by women. And it gives you that sense of confidence, and it can give so much, and why it's so important to think about what kind of team do I want around me, and where do I want to give birth? Where do I feel the safest? And I love what you said, the fearless team, because that is something that having seen hundreds of births now as a doula, I just feel like I need that fearless person. And will my team show up for me? Even if I'm planning a home birth, like, will they, you know, be fearless with me, or, fall back on the more nervous side of things, or think, I don't know why but those are things that are coming up because it's scary, and you don't know what's going to come up for you. And I'm just, yeah, your birth was, it was incredible, and you were incredible, and you just had that confidence. And it just makes me feel so happy that you feel that way now afterwards too, that you had such a solid team.
Yeah. Yeah. The confidence really came from the people that were around me. I think that's how we have a confident birth. It's not just something inside, because bringing a baby into the world alone, but all by yourself, yeah, we can do it. But it's not necessary. It's certainly a big, pushback to medicalized birth, that has, in many ways, I think, robbed women of the intuition and the inner knowing that you do possess when you're not, when, especially if you are giving birth without medication. And I'm not against medication. I'm not against free birthing. Like, I'm not against anything. I am very pro, like, do what suits you. What I think we fundamentally need throughout every stage of motherhood, beginning with pregnancy, is community and people surrounding us who have been there. And in your case, you necessarily hadn't been there personally,
Mhm.
but you brought just intuitive wisdom and faith and confidence. And there's value to that, right? There's so much value about that for me. In fact, I loved personally that you hadn't given birth because I felt like you didn't have like a preconceived idea of what I should be experiencing based on your experience of having given birth. Like you were just really dialed in and listening and responding. That's genuinely what we need to have a good birth experience. We may not always get the births that we want. That was my second birth. My birth with Giovanni was very challenging. That is the one that like I definitely feel like I had a little bit of a harder time. So both of my boys, my water didn't break until like literally right before I gave birth.
Mhm.
With Joe, um, there was no rest time in between the contractions. So my contractions were going for 2 minutes, and then you feel the buzz, and then it's supposed to be like a 2 minute pause. The buzz never stopped. I'm talking 10 seconds of a pause. So by the time I started labor, 6 hours later, I had this baby in my arms. When I started screaming at the top of my lungs, I I was like, I'm overwhelmed. I can't breathe. She checked me and she was like, "You're only 7 centimeters dilated." 11 minutes later, I was holding my baby.
Oh my gosh.
This, so whereas Matteo came in uh, like very like Buddha earthy, like he was still 8 hours. It was still 8 hours from the start of active labor to baby in my arms. The it still had this very peaceful, earthy vibe, which
Mhm.
makes sense. He's a Taurus. Whereas Giovanni has the Sagittarian that he is, honey girl, 2 weeks late. This child was 2 weeks late. Then he decided to come in 6 hours. And honestly, it tracks. It's such his personality. Like he's like a little behind, and then he's like rushes, and he is far ahead.
Oh,
But it was hard for me as the mummy because I was like, this needs to end. And I was like, I don't know if I can get him out. Like, I don't have the energy. I remember feeling that way. Like, I don't think I have the energy to push him out. We didn't have the birth stool. The birth stool was at another birth because they did not expect my birth to come at the speed that it did. And I was hell bent. I am birthing on that birth stool. So I didn't have my birth stool. I tried in the tub, same feeling again. In fact, I couldn't even get into the tub.
what?
I straddled the tub to get into it. And then Atusa, the attending midwife, she was like, she's pushing. We need to get her, on hands and knees now. And I pushed 3 times, hands and knees, and that baby was out in 3 times, in 3 pushes.
Oh my.
Three big pushes. But then the cutest thing afterward. So with Mateo, his umbilical cord was short. Do you remember that? He
Uh-huh.
had a short umbilical cord. I could not bring him up to my chest. We
Hmm.
had to hold him down and he had to be suctioned. He was having a little bit of a tiny little bit of a challenge in the beginning, but he recovered very quickly. We just had to keep him down. He needed the blood from the placenta coming up was like cutting off that blood supply.
Mm.
But with Joe, his placenta was super long. The cord was extremely long. So I was able to have that experience of pulling him out from underneath and bringing him right up into my chest.
Ah,
And I kid you not, this little baby wrapped his arms around my neck and buried his head into my neck like that.
no.
And I was like, this is my angel baby.
Mm.
Like we both worked our butts off to get here right now and to get here alive. Because with Matteo, I didn't necessarily feel like I was dying. With Joe, I was like, not in a medical sense, I didn't feel like I was dying, but I was like, I'm gonna give out. Like I don't have the stamina for what is coming, for what's happening right now. And thankfully that all washed away as soon as I pulled him up, brought him to my chest, and then just like hung out there while she, kind of cleaned him off, checked his face. He was immediately screaming and crying, which was such a reassuring feeling for me because, Mateo didn't do that.
Mm.
And he had great color. He was a great size. He was a bit of a bigger baby. Remember, Mateo was so small.
It was so
He was
small.
he
It
was
was
only
so,
5. He was only 5.5 pounds. That's why he
yeah.
flew out of me because he was weirdly small. Nobody expected the kid to be so freaking small. But Joe was 7.5 pounds and like almost 23 inches long.
Oh my
It was
God.
very, very long baby. Whereas Mateo was in petites. He or new or preemie. Mateo was in preemie clothes until he was like 6 weeks old. Joe was essentially in 3 to 6 months by the time he was like 2 months old. Just There's just a little bit of a bigger baby, but you know, not super big. He is half Indian, so those babies tend to be smaller little babies. Um, and then the experience in both of being able to just pick myself up and walk myself to the bed and lay down was such an incredible experience.
Mm.
And to not like feel traumatized. Definitely whiplashed, like what the F just happened? Whoa. But to not feel traumatized by what I just experienced, but to
Mm.
really feel that elation that I did that. And it was really me. I had this incredible support team behind me, but like it was me and my baby. Like, ain't nobody taking credit for that. No doctor is sitting behind my vagina being like, I birthed your baby. No, you didn't. No, you did not. Honey, I didn't see your vagina splitting straight open for this human. Mine did. I birthed this baby. And I loved that feeling. I did it. This is mine. And this is my story. And it's unique to me. And there's just something so beautiful about that, about the uniqueness of it. But then, as I was saying earlier, like the universal connection that there are, like, I just felt surrounded by every woman in the universe after both.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Oh my gosh, what a story. I love both of your stories so much, and they're so inspiring. And again, it's just like that part of needing to surrender, but also finding power in the surrender and having that you had still some of the same team, even though I unfortunately wasn't there for that second one. Such a bummer, but I'm so happy that you at least had Amy and Atusa because I mean, they're just the legends. They really, and uh yeah, I just am so inspired and so proud of you for doing that and for standing up for yourself, just like knowing yourself so well of like this is what's going to give me the most afterwards also, and really feeling that confidence boost because many people say they really feel that oxytocin high for weeks, sometimes months after having such a positive experience, even though there's definitely times where it's going to be really hard, but that they can still find that that power within.
Hmm.
Incredible. So how would you say that your postpartum journeys looked with both of them? If you want to go into that at all, how those differed, how yeah, what did those teach you?
Hmm. Well, um, I think with Matteo, my postpartum journey was teaching me balance and to maybe not, because I'm a bit of a perfectionist and feel like things have to be done right.
Mhm.
And, you quickly learn how imbalanced that is and how that will drive a person crazy if they're seeking that. Um, and I've always like considered myself a very present person, but parenthood just like postpartum really just brought me into a whole different level of presence where I now have to recognize, okay, I've got life that I have to do, but also I want to be available for these kids. And how do I do that in a way that's not going to burn me out? How do I do that in a way that is going to ensure that I'm still being authentic and not feeling, fake or covering up how I'm really feeling just in, because it's supposedly best or right for the child? How do I understand myself better? These all became the questions that I was curious about. And I think that the sense of balance is what I became better at with Mateo and more focused on. And then with Joe, um, I think what I was and continue to work on is um, just like the play and the joy of things. Like I can be a little like down to business. Like let's get our work done and then we'll play. I can be a little like straightforward like that. There's some conditioning there, but also I I do enjoy my work and I like having a clean house, for example. I like having good meals. I like having my boxes checked off. Like all those things help me feel organized and accomplished, and I feel good about that. And that's great. Those are good things. But what Joe really brings to the mix is, well, when is there time for just absolute abandon of all that and being in the joy, the laughter, the love, the play? And not that Mateo didn't bring that, of course he did. I just wasn't as tuned in because, first time parent, you're trying to make it look easy for everybody around you, but also for yourself because you're really just trying to survive. Second time around was really the chance to say, we're just gonna have a Trader Joe's meal tonight. It's okay. If it means that we spend more time playing this card game or we spend more time doing this board game, I'd actually rather do that.
Mm,
And
mm,
so listening more to that and being more in like the desire space and obviously meeting needs, but then incorporating what do I desire? What do I want?
mm,
What would make me happy? Those were not necessarily questions that I was asking myself the first time around. And I honestly think we all just need a kid like Joe, who is just pleasure for pleasure's sake. We all need a kid like Joe to remind us that that's really a main lesson in life is to just learn how to enjoy
mm,
and, bringing it back to being a woman. I think that's also something that is robbed of womanhood is just pleasure and joy.
Mhm.
It's even been robbed out of a lot of motherhood. Motherhood has become so intensive. It has become about snapping back. It has become about what's the best preschool and choosing the best, rattle, and getting your kid in the top of the line diapers. And are you going to choose diapers that destroy the environment? Are you going to be that type of mom? Or are you going to be the type of mom that is environmentally conscious? So like it's become about that, like very intensive, very perfectionistic driven motherhood. And then moms come to me as a therapist, and they want to know why they're so unhappy.
Mhm.
It's because we've taken the joy out of what we're doing. It's become so manualized, operationalized.
Mhm.
We want to know the steps. Tell me exactly what I should do, when, and how.
Mhm.
And and I think that my kids are teaching me that that's not necessary, and it's
Mhm.
not good for us.
Oh, wow.
So it's very impractical.
Okay.
Unless you wanted me to talk about the practical postpartum, sits, baths, and ice diapers.
No,
But
no.
okay.
No, for me, that's really, it's so deep. And, I love going there. I love going deep. And because I remember you being so authentic in the groups you would lead as well and say a lot about your own life experiences and how a lot of that comes up in parenting and how you are really healing yourself the whole entire time. So I love that you touched on all of that. And you are this incredibly successful woman that wears a lot of hats. So for me, I think, and knowing you're a bit of a perfectionist, my husband is too. So living with one, just like trying to prepare for postpartum because he has his list about everything, and the boxes he needs to cross. And I'm like, way optimistic, very Sagittarius, very like, let's just do this 1 hour at a time. And I feel like for me, I maybe was also just curious if you have time to touch on like the breastfeeding, like if you
Uh-huh.
breastfed, like what did that look like being such a successful, loving your job, being so successful at what you do? How did that look like in the United States where it is they make everything really harder for, working
Yeah.
humans?
Breastfeeding is very difficult for working humans and working mothers, especially. I did breastfeed. I breastfed both of my boys. I breastfed Matteo until he was 2. I breastfed Joe until he was 16 months. They both essentially self-weaned. I count my blessings with that. One, I was lucky to even produce enough milk. Two, I was also lucky to be an entrepreneur. So I set my own schedule. I was working 5 days a week. I would say like 9 to 6. I was teaching tons and tons and tons of classes and seeing, 15 clients a week before I had kids. And then after I had kids, I was like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. I am going to reset my schedule. I'm going to not be working on Fridays. And
Mm-hmm.
then I had my second kid, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to reset my schedule, and I'm going to not work on Fridays. I'm going to not teach classes on Mondays, and I'm going to cut the number of clients that I'm seeing from 18 to about like 10. Because at one point I was teaching like 10 classes a week. Like it was insane. And then I even still, like, this is always evolving. Then I've changed it. Now I only work 3 days a week with clients, and I teach one class a week. And then the rest of my time is spent writing, it's spent doing things like this, or it's honestly just spent relaxing, daydreaming, practicing my guitar, going for walks, meeting up with friends, because life is not just about doing all the things. Life is also about living. And I wasn't living. Sorry, that was an aside, but back to breastfeeding. Um, with Mateo, it was tough because Mateo was diagnosed as SGA, small for gestational age, when he was 2 days old. And so I nursed this kid around the clock for the first 6 weeks. I nursed him, it took him 45 minutes a feed, and I nursed him every 90 minutes for 6 straight weeks. I was like, I cannot keep going. This is absolutely insane. And I was very close to giving up. I actually had bought a thing of formula. I was so close to giving up. And then suddenly it just changed. And I had a lactation consultant who said, I felt like she gave me very good guidelines. She was like, just make it to the first 5 days. And then when I made it to the first 5 days, she was like, for next couple weeks, just make it to 3 weeks. That's it. That's all I want you to focus on. And then when I was in that and I was like, I can't keep doing this. She was like, just make it to 6 weeks. Just make it to 6 weeks. You've already made it 3 weeks. Just see if you can make it to 6 weeks. That's it. Just set that little goal for yourself. I said, okay. Got to 6 weeks. And I was like, okay, I'm here. I think I'm done. She was like, just make it to 3 months. See what it's like. See if you can. Just set the goal. See if you can. And I was like, okay, challenge accepted. So I made it to 3 months. And then she was like, if you can make it to 6 months, you're smooth sailing. So just see if you can. If you can't, it's no big deal. You've already made it 3 months. See if you can make it to 6. And I was like, okay. And then I made it to 6 months, and then she was absolutely right. It was just smooth sailing after that. But the first 6 months of breastfeeding is a wild freaking ride. You get a little bit of a good rhythm that you can make sense of by 3 months, but then the sleep goes insane. So then you're like, oh my God, am I supposed to be sleeping right now? Am I supposed to be feeding right now? It just kind of feels kind of insane, right? Because the first 6 months of child rearing are bananas. It's really bananas. But after 6 months, the routine is more predictable. They're eating solids. So yeah, I feel like you're feeding all the time, but still things just feel a little bit more clear. They're usually down to 2 naps somewhere between 6 and 9 months. Whereas before that, they're napping sometimes 3-4 times a day. So it's kind of a crapshoot. Everything feels like it could go this way today, it could go this way today. I'm not really sure. And I can't really control it. That's tough. And so I set the same guidelines and limits for myself when I was breastfeeding Giovanni. I said, got to make it the first 5 days, 3 weeks, 6 weeks, 3 months, 6 months. And there you go.
I've never heard it just explained like that. That's so insightful, because just going into this as a doula, I'm with them for the first 6 weeks. And then I'm like, I don't know what happens after that. Like that's where my specialty ends. So hearing you say that is really empowering, of like, okay, we have no control, but also we have maybe a little control, but maybe it's like 6 months. And to know that, like, to have those expectations going in, of not to have expectations with feeding and sleep, especially postpartum, because you just don't know what baby you're going to have and where you're going to be mentally, and you have to take it one day at a time. But I love that setting
Right.
and that was incredible. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. Oh, you're so amazing. And I could talk to you forever. And I know that I'm going to be leaning on you once this little baby's here, but I'm just so grateful to still have you in my life, and to just be able to continue following your journey and getting your book. Got to get your book ASAP. I feel like, I don't even know. Is it even in Sweden, or I have to get it from like
No,
Amazon?
you should be able to get it in Sweden. Through the UK, maybe through the UK retailer. It's still called Parent Yourself First. It just has a different cover.
Okay. I'm
Yes.
to be looking that
But
up
you should be able to get the audiobook too. That might
as
be easier, the audiobook or the Kindle. Those might be a little easier for you
you're
to
the
have
one
access to.
with the audio. You're the one
Yeah,
speaking.
I narrated it. Yeah.
Okay, amazing. Oh, I'm so proud of you, and just I'm looking forward to reading your book and just continuing to learn from you, because I love I love your website, your Instagram. You share so much invaluable information to new parents, and you help so many people around the world. So I just am grateful you're in this field and helping to change lives one day at a time. And such an incredible mom. I mean, your boys are so lucky. And yes, say hi to Matt from me. And yeah,
I
all
will. Thank you so much. And thank you for letting me have this beautiful chance to reflect on my experience. And I hope that it's helpful for your listeners and inspires you to be open to what your journey is going to look like, and taking all these little bits and pieces of people's stories and seeing where that weaves into yours, and then where yours blossoms and blooms into what it's supposed to be for you.
Oh, thank you so much. I love you so much, Bryana, and thank you again so much for your time.
Mm.
And I will put in the notes below where you can all find Bryana, her book, her website, and all the incredible tools she has to share. So thanks again for your time, Bryana.
Thank you, Allison.